You are making a mistake in your garden every single morning, and you do not even know it. Right now, millions of gardeners across America are saving their used coffee grounds, walking outside and spreading them around their tomatoes, their blueberries, their garden soil, convinced they are doing something smart, convinced they are improving their plants for free. And most of them are watching nothing change, season after season. Same grounds, same garden, same disappointing results. I know because I did the exact same thing for 6 years. 6 years of carefully collecting coffee grounds, drying them, spreading them across my garden soil every spring because every gardening blog on the internet told me used coffee grounds were acidic, free fertilizer that acid-loving plants like blueberries and tomatoes would thrive on. Then I actually read the research, and what I found stopped me completely. The most repeated tip in home gardening, coffee grounds in the garden, is built on a claim that soil scientists have tested and disproved. The acidic coffee ground story is not just incomplete, it is wrong. And because nobody is willing to say that directly, millions of gardeners are using coffee grounds in ways that are either doing nothing or actively working against them. Today, I am going to show you exactly what used coffee grounds actually do to your garden soil, the science, the mistakes, and 3 methods that produce real, measurable results, including one at the very end that nobody in gardening is talking about yet, a way to turn your daily coffee grounds into one of the most powerful soil biology amendments you have ever applied to your garden beds. Stay with me, because everything you think you know about coffee grounds in your garden is about to change. Let's get into it. The myth and where it came from. Here is what you have been told about coffee grounds in the garden. Used coffee grounds are acidic. They lower your garden soil pH. They're the perfect free fertilizer for acid-loving plants, blueberries, azaleas, tomatoes, roses. Sprinkle coffee grounds around the base of these plants, scratch them lightly into your garden soil, and watch everything thrive. That is the tip. That is what every gardening channel, every gardening blog, every well-meaning neighbor repeats. It sounds logical. It sounds like science. It has been shared so many times that questioning it feels almost ridiculous. But where did this idea actually come from? The coffee grounds garden myth has its roots in the 1950s and 1960s when home gardening guides began recommending kitchen waste as free soil amendments. Used coffee grounds were one of the most available kitchen waste products in every American home. Someone noted that fresh, unbrewed coffee grounds tested acidic, which is true, and concluded that used spent grounds must work the same way on garden soil. That conclusion was never properly tested. It was repeated in gardening columns, then in books, then in early internet forums, then in blog posts, then in YouTube videos about garden tips. Each repetition added a layer of assumed authority. By the time social media arrived, the coffee grounds garden tip was so deeply embedded in gardening culture that nobody questioned it anymore. Here is what the science actually shows. Fresh, unbrewed coffee grounds are indeed acidic, pH around 5.5 to 6. That part is true. But the moment you run hot water through coffee grounds to brew your morning cup, something fundamental happens. The brewing process extracts and washes away most of those acidic compounds. The acids go into your cup. You drink them. What's left behind in the used coffee grounds sitting in your filter is close to pH neutral. Researchers at the University of the Sunshine Coast tested used coffee grounds directly in real garden soil conditions and found the pH of spent grounds sits between 6.5 and 6.8. That is not acidic. That is virtually identical to the natural pH of most garden soil already. They then applied those used coffee grounds to real garden beds repeatedly over a full growing season and measured soil pH throughout. The pH did not move. This is the part that should make every gardener stop and think. The whole reason most people put coffee grounds in their garden soil to create the acidic conditions that blueberries and tomatoes prefer is based on a property that brewing removes before the grounds ever leave your kitchen. The coffee grounds acidic myth is not just slightly exaggerated. The specific property people are trying to use does not exist in used grounds at all. This does not mean coffee grounds are useless in the garden. It means you have been using them for the wrong reason. And once you understand what they actually do to garden soil, the real science, you can start using coffee grounds in ways that produce genuine results. What coffee grounds actually do to garden soil. Used coffee grounds do three things that genuinely benefit your garden soil. None of them have anything to do with acidity. First, slow-release nitrogen for your garden plants. Used coffee grounds contain roughly 2% nitrogen by weight. Nitrogen is the primary nutrient garden plants use to build leaves and stems. It's the N in the NPK on every bag of fertilizer at the garden center. And in used coffee grounds, that nitrogen is released slowly into your garden soil as the grounds decompose, a gentle, steady feed rather than a sharp chemical spike. Think about what that means practically. A bag of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer hits your garden soil like a wave, fast, intense, and gone within weeks. Used coffee grounds release nitrogen into your garden soil the way a slow river feeds a valley, gradually, consistently, over months. For leafy garden crops like lettuce, spinach, and kale that are in the ground for long periods, that slow, steady nitrogen release from coffee grounds is genuinely more beneficial than a fast synthetic hit. The important word is slowly. Without help, used coffee grounds can take 6 months to a full year to fully decompose in garden soil. This is exactly why gardeners who add coffee grounds to their garden in spring and expect their tomatoes to respond by July are always disappointed. The nitrogen benefit from coffee grounds in garden soil is real. The timeline is simply much longer than most people expect. Second, organic matter that transforms garden soil structure. As used coffee grounds decompose in your garden soil, they add organic matter. Organic matter is the physical building block of genuinely healthy garden soil. It's what gives productive garden beds that dark, crumbly, moisture-holding texture that the best gardeners have and most backyard plots are desperately missing. In heavy clay garden soil, organic matter from decomposed coffee grounds helps open up the structure and dramatically improve drainage. In sandy garden soil, it helps bind particles together and hold moisture far longer between watering sessions. Neither transformation happens in one season of coffee ground applications, but a gardener who consistently works coffee grounds into their garden soil, composted and applied correctly, will have measurably better soil structure after 3 seasons than one who does nothing. Third, microbial activity that makes garden soil come alive. This is the benefit nobody talks about, and it is the most important one. Used coffee grounds are a food source for beneficial soil microorganisms living in your garden soil. Research published in Applied Soil Ecology found that coffee ground amendments significantly increased populations of beneficial bacteria and fungi in garden soil, particularly species involved in nitrogen cycling and organic matter decomposition. Your garden soil biology becomes more active. More active soil biology means more nutrients made available to plant roots. More available nutrients means stronger garden plants, better yields, and more natural disease resistance without adding any synthetic product. Garden soil with active biology feeds itself. Used coffee grounds, applied correctly, help build and sustain that biology season after season. Not one of these 3 benefits requires your garden soil to be acidic. They work in any soil type, in any climate zone, across any garden, which means every gardener, not just those growing blueberries, can genuinely benefit from using coffee grounds correctly in their garden soil. The 4 mistakes destroying your results. Now let me tell you exactly what is going wrong in most gardens where coffee grounds are being used, but nothing is improving. Mistake 1. Applying wet coffee grounds directly on top of garden soil. Wet coffee grounds compact into a dense, impenetrable layer that repels water and blocks air from reaching your garden soil surface. They also create ideal conditions for gray mold, a fungal problem that spreads rapidly and damages seedlings and young garden plants. If you have ever seen a fuzzy gray or white crust forming across the area where you applied coffee grounds to your garden, that is exactly what happened. The fix is completely simple. Either dry your coffee grounds before applying them to your garden, or mix them into the top inch of garden soil immediately, rather than leaving them sitting exposed on the surface. Mistake 2. Applying too many coffee grounds at once. More coffee grounds in your garden is not better. A thin layer, no more than half an inch, worked gently into the top 2 inches of garden soil is the correct application rate. A thick layer of coffee grounds creates a physical barrier rather than a soil amendment. It mats down, repels water, and does more harm to your garden soil than no application at all. This is one of the most common reasons gardeners try coffee grounds, see negative results, and conclude they simply do not work in the garden. They do work. The application method was wrong. Mistake 3. Using coffee grounds as your only garden soil amendment. Coffee grounds are a garden soil supplement, not a complete fertilizer. Used coffee grounds are low in phosphorus and potassium, 2 of the 3 primary nutrients garden plants need. Using coffee grounds alone in your garden soil without building organic matter, compost, or other amendments alongside them is like feeding your garden plants only one of the 3 things they need most. Something will always be missing. Coffee grounds work best as one component of a complete garden soil building approach, not as a standalone solution. Mistake 4. Worrying that coffee grounds kill earthworms in your garden soil. You may have read that caffeine in coffee grounds harm earthworms living in your garden soil. This concern originated from laboratory studies using pure concentrated caffeine at exposure levels far higher than anything found in real used coffee grounds applied to real garden beds. Actual field research using spent coffee grounds in genuine garden soil conditions found no negative effect on earthworm populations whatsoever. In fact, several garden soil studies found increased earthworm activity in beds regularly amended with coffee grounds because the soil microorganisms that coffee grounds feed are themselves a primary food source for earthworms. More soil microorganisms means more earthworms. More earthworms means better garden soil. The earthworm concern is not supported by evidence from real garden use. Here is exactly how to use coffee grounds in your garden in a way that produces real measurable results. Collect your used coffee grounds after brewing and spread them in a thin layer on a tray or flat surface in your kitchen. Let them dry completely. 1 to 2 days at room temperature is enough. Dry coffee grounds do not compact on your garden soil. Dry coffee grounds do not mold. Dry coffee grounds are what you actually want going into your garden beds. Once your coffee grounds are dry, mix them into your garden compost pile at a ratio of roughly 1 part grounds to 4 parts brown carbon material, dried leaves, straw, shredded cardboard. The coffee grounds add nitrogen to your compost pile and accelerate the decomposition of everything else in it. After 3 to 4 months, that finished compost, with coffee grounds fully broken down and integrated throughout, is one of the most biologically active garden soil amendments you can spread across any garden bed. If you want to apply coffee grounds directly to your garden soil without composting first, scratch them into the top 2 inches of soil immediately after spreading and water them in straight away. Apply coffee grounds to your garden this way once a month during the growing season, not every week, once a month. Consistency of coffee ground applications over multiple months produces the cumulative organic matter and soil biology benefits that make the real difference in your garden. Impatience produces the mold and soil compaction problems that make gardeners give up on coffee grounds entirely. One more practical note. Most local coffee shops will give you your used coffee grounds completely free. They produce far more used grounds every day than they can dispose of comfortably, and most of them pay to have it hauled away. Walk in, explain you use them in your garden soil, and ask the manager. You will almost always walk out with a bag. Some shops leave used coffee grounds by the door specifically for gardeners. One visit to a local coffee shop can give you enough grounds to amend every garden bed you own. Now here's what I promised you at the beginning, the method nobody in gardening is talking about yet. What happens when you ferment your used coffee grounds for 7 days before applying them to your garden soil? Take your used coffee grounds while they're still slightly damp from brewing. Mix them with an equal weight of brown sugar. Pack the mixture loosely into a clean glass jar. Cover the opening with a breathable cloth, a piece of old t-shirt or cheesecloth secured with a rubber band. Leave the jar in a warm spot in your kitchen for 7 days. What develops inside that jar during those 7 days is a thriving colony of beneficial soil microorganisms, bacteria and fungi that have been actively feeding on the coffee grounds and the sugar.
This is the exact biological principle behind Korean natural farming, the practice of cultivating indigenous microorganisms from local organic material and returning them to garden soil in concentrated living form, but made entirely from a waste product that costs you nothing and regenerates in your kitchen every single morning. After 7 days, your fermented coffee grounds mixture will smell earthy and slightly tangy, like rich forest floor after rain. Not unpleasant. That smell tells you the microbial colony inside is alive, active, and ready to work. Dilute 1 tablespoon of this fermented coffee grounds liquid in 1 gallon of water. Apply it directly to your garden soil once a week for 1 month. The effect on your garden soil biology is immediate. You are not simply adding organic matter the way standard coffee ground applications do. You are directly inoculating your garden soil with a concentrated living microbial community that was specifically cultivated on coffee grounds. The same organic material your garden soil will continue receiving from you week after week. Those organisms establish themselves in your garden soil immediately. They begin breaking down existing organic matter, cycling nitrogen into plant-available forms, and building the fungal networks that connect plant roots to the broader living soil system around them. The coffee grounds have not changed. What changed is what you did with them before they went into your garden soil. That is the difference between a gardening tip that gets repeated on every channel and a method that actually transforms what is happening underneath your garden. If this video changed how you think about the coffee grounds sitting in your filter right now, hit the like button. Not for me, because YouTube uses that signal to put this video in front of the next gardener who has been spreading wet coffee grounds directly on their garden soil for years and cannot figure out why nothing is improving. Now I want to hear from you in the comments, and I want more than 1 word this time. Tell me this: how long have you been putting coffee grounds in your garden? What method have you been using? And have you ever actually seen a result you could measure? Be honest, because your answer is going to help every other gardener reading these comments understand what is actually working in real gardens and what is gardening folklore dressed up as advice. And if you want more videos like this one, not recycled tips, not borrowed secrets, just honest gardening knowledge backed by real science, subscribe and turn the notification bell on so you never miss what comes next. I will see you in the next one.